the rescheduling of this particular program of classes that we are going to condense topics together. So tonight we will discuss the question of nirvana in connection with the approach to mysticism together. I think it's quite workable, and in fact they should be together. Tonight we are going to discuss the question of attitude and the tendency as a basic point of reference. That when we talk in terms of attitude, that there seems to be a lot of room, but when we talk about the question of tendency, that becomes an animalistic instinct of some kind. Maybe those two situations could be worked out together. The attitude is relating with the mysticism. A tendency is relating with that of nirvana. From a simple-minded point of view, the notion of nirvana is that of want to be saved at the beginning. Having heard the message of suffering and origin of suffering, then you want to be saved from that pain, that suffering. And automatic process is that you look for paths or pattern of some commitment in which that you can let go yourself and evolve yourself through the process of path. The question of that is very important, actually, that we are here together and we feel what we're doing is something meaningful, something is purposeful. Disregarding what kind of metaphysical, philosophical attitude you should have taken. But however, the fact remains very naked and obvious that we are looking for something, we are looking for freedom, liberation, emancipation, some kind of way out from this. But the problem comes up is that not knowing what this is actually, so we have no idea what we're going to get out from. And that question remains very fuzzy and very dubious. That there was a kind of big rumor begun that we're going to get out of this. There's a fire. So everybody runs, and not knowing who said there was a fire and how the fire began, where to go about. But we have some idea that that kind of alarm system is functioned automatically to build our system of paranoia. So if anything is mentioned in terms of getting something that you can hold on to, obviously it's a natural animal, ape instinct, human instinct, whatever, to do something about it. We leap out our window and doors, trapdoors, whatever. We try to get out of this, not knowing what this is taking place, what is this at all. But one does that. When somebody mentions about freedom, and when somebody mentions about pleasure, ecstasy, whatever, that automatic response is, let's do it, let's have it. Not knowing who is benefiting by it and all kinds of things. That there is a lack of somewhat lawyer's mentality or investigator's mentality, but there is more of impulsiveness. That love of luxury is the ultimate bliss or nirvana. Spiritually, that has become the problem here. But however, such insight or such impulse rather is maybe necessary at some point, that one has to have some form of opening one's mind at the beginning. But then the question is how far we could go with that. Should we go all the way and run around and try to find the freedom, the exit, the entrance, whatever? Or should we stop it halfway through and think twice? I think what generally happens to us basically is that we hear some kind of good news, maybe founded on a very confused and stupid basis. There is freedom exists. But then, when we look into freedom more, we begin to feel that imprisonment aspect is more and more. If we do that, that seems to cut the particular point of reference of frivolous attitude towards enlightenment or whatever. That cuts down. And sense of freedom is felt because there's an equal sense of imprisonment. Imprisonment is possible because sense of freedom is very romantic. The question of nirvana or freedom is somewhat very tricky subject. It does not go along with the first notion of getting the message, getting the newspaper ad, there is a way out. That isn't quite the message of nirvana, but that is just the flu of nirvana, or the fever of nirvana. On a very ordinary, simple-minded and confused way, that you begin to realize there's some kind of alternatives. Quite possibly, in many cases, that all of us would experience that cutting out newspaper message and cherishing it, copying down the address, writing in a notebook, address book, is spiritual materialism. And in fact, as a matter of fact, that a lot of us spend entire life doing that. That in fact we're addicted to our newspaper ads. And sit down, that's our way of relaxing, copying out all the addresses and speculating all the possibilities of all kinds, that what we might be able to do, but one never does it. One just spends a whole life in doing that. Hopefully, tonight here, that we are better stated than that. Hopefully, that we have more intelligence than just sitting back and looking at ads in the newspaper, ad section in the newspaper. Taking that as taking count of that situation, now we can go further. And also, hopefully, that this particular talk is not regarded as an announcement or TV ad, whatever, or salesmanship pitch, whatever. And hopefully that what we are doing now is be taken more seriously and more personally and more humorously at the same time. With those conditions we can go further. With those preparations we can go further, because then you will be able to hear, you'll be able to listen, understand. Otherwise you just become the villain of advertisement that somebody's tapping on your weakness and you automatically will sign and do anything. You want to get out as fast as you can. And somehow that when the message is on you, met with your desire, you can hear it very clearly and completely. You could identify with the message and you begin to wake. But when the message is over, you have enormous difficulty in relating with the totality of the teachings. Such as advertisement of a cool cigarette is more effective in summer, because you identify with, you want to get away from the hot and heated. Unpleasant, claustrophobic experience, but you still have to smoke cigarettes. So if there's another alternative way for smoking better cigarettes, which makes you cool and refreshing, why not do it? And that is kind of approach that we have involved ourselves into the depth of the bottom pitch of samsara, and all kinds of confusions taking place, claustrophobia is taking place, and heat of interpersonal relationships are immense. And after all this, that if we could get some kind of messages which says that this is the training on the coolness, freedom from the heat, well, it's appealing, but I wouldn't blame on anybody that somebody got to turn onto that. That's a human instinct, ape instinct, spiritual materialistic instinct. But however, that is first stepping stone to nirvana, actually, which is somewhat valid, somewhat necessary at the beginning. We have to have something to cut through the spiritual materialism, that one had to build that kind of cheap and somewhat gullible openness which is developed and good, for lack of a better choice, of course. But what is better choice anyway then? At that point, there's none. And then we begin to get into the process and realizing that nirvana is by no means easy matter. That in fact the question of nirvana does not mean that you should and you ought to take the attitude of holding on to freedom. The notion of nirvana here is freeing from the notion of freedom itself. The freedom of the first impulse perception is that you can get away with anything. From today onward, I don't have to do anything at all. I could be a carelessly happy person, infinitely, spiritually or materialistically, whatever. And then you have the second notion of freedom, which is even that pursuit is somewhat tricky, not so good. And there's lots of traps involved with that. That we begin to question that notion of freedom that we got at the beginning. Is this the freedom or is this something else? Obviously this is something else because you begin to notice your shadow, your subconscious gossip, and your longing to be freed is the most deepest of all. Is very suspicious, absolutely suspicious. There's something is not quite right about that. And then the student who has opened his mind, her mind to the path, begin to question again, if this is not freedom, am I supposed to give up hope or look further? The answer seemed to be is both, actually. That you should give up hope and you pursue further, hopelessly. And something is beginning to click, something is beginning to actually happen. That when you realize that freedom is not dependent on hope or hopelessness, neither of them are two expressions of freedom. So then we go beyond that level, we begin to feel enormously inspired, still looking for freedom, of course. But nevertheless, let's not regard that as too corny or too bad. It's the best of our ability that how much we can accommodate our own inspiration is we've gone to that far. So it's good. If we've gone as far as to that level, it seems to be good. The question of nirvana, liberation, freedom. That freedom from this point of view, at the first level, is still instinct. Instinctive ape instinct level, that there is something had to be sought, something had to be looked for. Although your approach becomes highly sophisticated and highly powerful, and you begin to click into the nature of freedom is all about. You begin to learn double logic, triple logic. That happens, this happens, this happens, that happens, but on the whole, there's an unsolvable problem of some kind. And freedom from Buddhist point of view, nirvana for that matter, is misinterpreted a great deal, enormously. That according to the encyclopedia that has been published 1937 or something like that, it says that nirvana which is very interesting. They have got that word. And underneath is a Buddhist version of freedom, freedom from all pain, all suffering, and the total extinction of any emotions, which suggests that once you're freed, according to the Buddhist version of freedom is concerned, you become a jellyfish. You can't hear, you can't think, you can't smell. You are just reduced into an ice ball. According to the Buddhism, that looking is sin, listening is a sin. Any sense perception that you might indulge yourself is not good. So therefore, the Buddhist version of freedom is be like Buddha, a statue of Buddha made out of cast iron. Well, I think you've seen this humor of that, which is a very good sign. But I hope you won't take it literally at the same time, those who haven't got the humor of it. The question of freedom at this point is the complete opposite of that. That you're awake, that you're in a state of wakefulness, that you expand yourselves, open yourselves constantly to the notion of imprisonment as well as the notion of freedom, so you are in contact with the hopelessness as well as hopefulness. There's all kinds of breakthroughs taking place. Largely, or completely rather, it is due to the practice of meditation. That meditation brings out hidden neuroses. Meditation also dissolves, recycles, whatever, all kinds of hidden neuroses and obvious neuroses as well. At the same time, it's operating from that level. And then there is another second part, which is a mystical experience, according to the Buddhist tradition, which is traditionally known as the Tantra of Vajrayana, this point. And what we're going to talk Tantra tonight is probably will be a teaser for you to stay on to the second semester. But the Tantra, notion of a Tantric approach to freedom is concerned, it's approaching an entirely different angle, entirely different perspective. The sense of freedom is communicating with one's discovery of hopelessness, hopefulness, whatever, through the practice of meditation. And you begin to feel trust in oneself and the trusting in the universe up to a certain point, that you feel that you are expanding you can afford to dance in beautiful meadows full of flowers and wild plants, and you can jump as high as you can. When you landed on the ground wouldn't break. It's a solid ground, you wouldn't go through an invisible tunnel. That you feel that everything's safe, you can expand, express yourself, come out and open yourself as much as you can. There's a sense of joy, sense of openness, sense of complete freedom from that point of view, but still you are conditioned by something or other, which is you are expanding out constantly. You're dancing on the meadows, you're dancing in the river or the lake, swimming, or whatever, that you are expressing your youthful, exuberant qualities from the process of basic sanity, which transcends chronological age at this point, actually. But it's eternal youth, whatever you like to call it, is breaking through and becoming the victorious one, the complete enlightened one, Samyak Sambuddha, that completely enlightened one, completely evolved in a state of freedom. And from the tantric point of view, such notions seem to be still very primitive. And you can't call that experience a mystical experience at all. That's a mundane experience still. It is a mundane experience because that you're radiating out. And you're trying to cover the ground of your dance circle purely by your own energy. You try to cheer the world up. Make the world as a festive situation. You begin to feel very courageous, and you begin to feel heroic, which is then you're approaching to the Mahayana mentality, maybe that point. It is your duty, but nobody else's, to cheer up the world and to bring everybody into the Bodhisattva path. Let's tell them the good message of the Bodhisattva's cheerfulness, excitement, and the cool light of compassion is available to everybody. Let's do it, let's dance. Well, it's okay, I suppose. But still, we haven't got the real heart of the message that what we are trying to talk about. Actual freedom hasn't come to us yet. We are imposing freedom to unfreed world, which is okay, maybe act as inspiration to a lot of people, but still we are primitive from that angle. The notion of freedom hasn't been exposed or perceived properly, fully, in us or out of us, whatever it may be. Vajrayana's notion of freedom is still highly disciplined, at the same time highly undisciplined. And discipline works with undisciplined at the same time. So there's a sense of trust in the freedom, that you don't have to be the activator of freedom, particularly at all. This is, we're getting into mysticism. Well, it's not mysterious in that sense of mysticism, but it's mystical because it is beyond any grasp of the ordinary who haven't gone through the basic freedom training to begin with. And it is possible that when you lose notion of individuality and preserving one's sense of freedom and dancing in the meadow, you go beyond that, you cut through that. And then, to your surprise, you find that the meadow is dancing on you. The freedom is coming to you, rather than you are going towards the freedom. That is notion of Vajra-like freedom. Vajra is a term in Tantric Buddhism. It's used which means indestructibility, and also means overwhelming power. And also, Vajra is a scepter that you hold, like this one here is called Vajra, that it is scepter that hold by accomplished Vajra person who has no fear of imprisonment, and freedom comes to you. Therefore, the person doesn't have to seek freedom as such. For that matter, freedom equals to enlightenment, of course. That freedom from that point of view is coming towards you. Instead of trying to influence, that influence is coming towards you. You might say, from where? From who? Who's doing this? And nobody's doing it. Simply because you have developed enough understanding between your openness and the state of existence in totality, that energies exist in the universe. So universe is dancing with you. The energies of the sky, mountains, and sun, rocks, oceans, rivers, people, that they are self-existing energy. They are coming towards you. That there's nothing to be afraid of because things are coming towards you. But there's a sense of a complete openness, totality, which seems to be the basic point of Buddhist approach to mysticism, is seeing the inside of reality. When we talk about reality here, we are not purely talking in terms of metaphysical understanding of reality, but we are purely talking in terms of the red is really red, and blue is really blue, white is really white. Water is water, earth is earth. You are you, I am. And things as they are, completely, totally, invincibly, unshakably. But then you might say, what happens with those Buddhist doctrines of egolessness and those things, that those trips laid on us earlier on? What happens to those? Are we supposed to abandon the whole thing, or how we can make it a kosher, so to speak? Well, it seems to be the basic question there is that since there is already basic understanding that nobody is being freed or imprisoned, and you don't have the problem at all, the issue is not involved particularly. Since the issue is not involved, that the world is your disposal. You can reshape the universe if you like. You can make the world into plastic, if you like, or world into metal, world into fire, water, wood. It's up to you to reshape the universe. You are at control. Every one of us are control. That there's no cultural problems involved, or there's no notion of sin or virtue is involved. At that level, that there is complete understanding as things as they are, a true appreciation of phenomena world in its fullest and complete sense. that the world is seen as they are, without question. Well, that is just the beginning of the tantric situation, tantric tradition, that which involves that basic phenomena, the world is to be seen as they are. It's the mystical experience of Buddhism and a mystical notion of a sense of freedom, that the experience coming to you, approaching to you rather than you are approaching them, that you become Vajra nature, indestructible. Not that the world is coming at you like they're trying to destroy you. That person might find an LSD trip and such things like that. But the opposite, that because the world is coming at you, therefore you are the king, the emperor. That you have no fear, that you can work with that situation very simply, because you can reshape the universe. You can reshape what is coming at you at the same time. Not that they are just coming at you as alien forces manufactured by somebody else, but it is your doing at the same time. You can turn the light on, it's your doing, then there is light. You can turn off, make it dark, it's your doing. And the situation seemed to be very simple at that point. And maybe we could stop at that point and have a discussion about it.
When the world is coming at you and you are reshaping it, is the way you are shaping it an expression of the Dharma? And if so, is this something that is independently and spontaneously decided at the point where you are reshaping it?
I think you got it. Well said, sir. But don't rush. Don't rush.
If the things that are coming towards you are determined by your karma, how do you go through karma at that moment?
At that level, you exhausted your karmic relational action. The storehouse of consciousness being already busted. So the karma of that somehow doesn't apply. Either good or bad karma doesn't apply at that point. What we are talking tonight is a very advanced level. That's why I said it's purely teaser, and maybe you can work towards it.
But things are coming towards us at every moment.
Is what?
Aren't things coming towards us at every moment?
Well, that depends on how aware you are yourself. It could be every moment, which usually happens in any case, that sunlight is coming towards you all the time. Whenever you notice that sun is shining on you, there's that energy coming towards you. But phenomenologically speaking, maybe it depends on the occasional glimpse of awareness. Good luck, madam.
In your book Mudra, you wrote some commentary on the Zen ox herding pictures, and you implied that you could have the Tantra experience without necessarily having the Tantra teachings, because it was implied in Zen toward the end of the ox herding pictures that you're actually having the Tantra experience. And I wonder if that is what you were saying.
I missed the last point of what you said.
Well, in the ox herding pictures in Mudra, you said that the experiences there were ones of the Tantra. And I wonder if you actually were saying that you could have the Tantra experience without the Tantra teachings.
Well, Tantra is could be experienced by concept or by experience, even in Hinayana level, without naming it, without a formula being tantrika as such. But still, that in order to be true tantrika, you have to visualize deities. You have to work with those things coming at you, which sometimes are known as Dakinis, sometimes known as Herukas, and all kinds of things. One has got to do that in terms of Orthodox Tantra teachings are concerned, which is very traditional, very basic. But obviously there's underlying tantrika processes taking place with everybody, who start on the path of accumulation in the ordinary level, as well as Bodhisattva path also has a tantric experience taking place. But somehow that you got to do it properly, and that is my orthodox view. And if we're going to actually practice it, one has to practice it as our forefathers did.
Rinpoche, is this where demons come in as guardians of the Dharma? Uninitiated, in other words, they scare off the uninitiated, as it were?
Sorry, I didn't catch.
Is this where demons come in as guardians of the Dharma? That is to say, do they operate to scare off the uninitiated?
Well, I think that's the case. Actually, you're quite right. And there is that sense of you'll be terrified, as been said in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. You'll be terrified if you see the light coming at you from the Buddhas, 5 Buddhas. And then there is a very kind and brilliant and a very subdued light coming at you. You feel associations with it. So from that point of view, that the awe-inspiration, awe-inspired feelings that you feel there's a bank of energy you're approaching, and you begin to feel whether it's going to be a source of destruction or source of creation, and which creates both the demons or the death, for that matter, as well as the Herukas or Dakinis or whatever, which is the expression of freedom. So there's a very faint distinction between the two.
So whether or not you see light or die depends upon your state.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not sure this is an entirely appropriate question, but...
Can you speak slowly, please?
Sure. I'm not sure this is an entirely appropriate question, but in any case, could you comment on the proper use of oracles?
Proper use of what?
Oracles.
Auras?
Oracles.
Oracles, yeah. I don't know what you're talking about exactly, but I can guess, I suppose. Well, in the true sense, that when you become tantrika, you become oracle, because you pick up the messages, you relay that with others, you act as a channel, or become a radios, whatever. Not a very romantic image. But there are some oracles that are purely based on a sense of hysteria, that you build yourself up to your own wantingness, and finally the whole thing failed through. That whole thing becomes your ego-centered version. And let me give you an example of the state oracle in Tibet, before the Chinese communist takeover of Tibet, before the uprising. And oracles, as a person, are so much concerned, they don't want to lose their position or possessions of their authority and richness of living. They are so much concerned, and when they were approached in a certain ceremonial situation, that oracles went into a trance. They babbled their message, and the message said that we will win, which is typical that he doesn't want to lose. So the message comes that way, and that is a rather disappointing story, but it's true. So I think we should watch for that ourselves. How about that?
Could you speak of the term tulku as related to the tantric path and nirvana?
In the tantric path, well, tulku is the continuation of Vajra nature, that energy after energy that is developed through the basic training of a certain particular person who had developed a Vajra nature, unshakable, invincible Vajra nature, that continuous, which is what we are talking about in terms of that. Sounds like opposite to the notion of egolessness, but at the same time, the notion of Vajra quality of invincibility is based on that of, because of there's no ego to be attacked, there's nothing to lose, so therefore it is invincible at the same time, and inspired. Gentleman over there somewhere?
I would like to know if there are levels beyond the level of nirvana that you were talking about tonight. That at the
Where
point,
are you?
right
Raise
here,
your hand. Okay. Yeah.
that at the point of reaching the state of nirvana that you were talking about, is
what?
the point of reaching the state of nirvana that you were talking about, does that allow the mind a certain freedom to explore?
Mind what?
The mind, is the mind given a certain amount of freedom at that point to explore deeper levels of its processes? What I'm asking is, are there different levels of nirvana, higher and lower?
I'm afraid I have to disagree with you. Whatever you said, the rest of it is okay, but when you use the word deeper, I have to disagree with you. It's not a question of deeper, it's a question of opening, wide, completely open. It's not going in, but it's expanding, because you don't have to try to make sure there is a little atom bomb is inside you. But you can trust that there is entire energy everywhere, that you have to open it therefore it comes back to you at the same time. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe we have to close at this point, and we could discuss next time if you have further questions, because next discussion and next scene of our class is going to be, I think the last one, sad to say, but however, it is happy to announce that we have a chance to review the whole thing what we've discussed, and maybe we have a long period of discussion taking place and short talk, which might be better for a change. There's some announcement need to be made if you'd like to stick.
Going? Yeah. I'd like to clarify the announcement that was made.